Welcome to DIY Spooky Decor, or now Dakota's Spooky Decor. Okay, so we are going to make an awesome pumpkin juice bottle today using this old wine bottle that I've been hanging on to for way too many years. I started with tinfoil to make the round pumpkin shape. You're gonna see this whole adventure. I make a lot of mistakes. So, the first step in creating a pumpkin bottle is to get the pumpkin shape. I wanted to use tinfoil for this. I was inspired by another YouTuber who uses tinfoil, tape, and like paper mache to create different sculptures of like trees and fairies and cottages and gnomes and just awesome stuff. I think the name of the channel is Where the Gnomes Live. I'll have to look it up. I'll link it in the bottom, but it's a really cool channel. But that's kind of where I got this inspiration from. So the idea was to build up the shape of the pumpkin on the bottle with the tinfoil. Super easy. You can see you kind of just build it up to the size you like, fold it in on itself, kind of like in a hot dog bun fashion. But at this point, this is where I run out of tinfoil. And instead of pausing my project and just running out and getting more tinfoil, because more than likely this was in the middle of the night and nothing was open, I decided to switch to craft paper because we have a huge roll of it. And I thought maybe that would work and be just as easily to mold and glue down as the tinfoil. I was wrong. But here I go, being not as clever as I thought I was being, because I do this all the way around. It's a little time consuming. You can already see there the size difference, and for some reason in my head I thought I could still manage to either bulk up the tinfoil side or smush down the paper side with the tape. So I go in and I start just trying to adhere everything to that bottle with the tape as nicely as I can. Now that tinfoil and the hot glue stuck so well to that glass bottle, the paper just wanted to go everywhere because it's just crumpled up, you know? So I'm trying to get that paper to stay on there. Here it is. Here's the moment where I was like, nope, it's gotta come off. It's not working. So, just out of pure frustration, that comes off. And I went out and got more tinfoil because that's what I should have done in the first place. You can see here I did tape off those two sections of tinfoil already. Not really sure why, but I did. So now I just go around with more tinfoil and build up that pumpkin shape until it's all the way around. Alrighty, now that I think I have the pumpkin shape I want, I go ahead and start adding that tape over the top to get everything together and start molding that shape better. I'm going in a vertical fashion over the tinfoil and trying to get the edges of the tape in those creases of the tinfoil to really make that like bulbousy pumpkin shape. You know, I don't even know what to call it, but I think you know what I'm talking about. I want it to get most of the lower part of the pumpkin taped off before I start it to add the stem around the bottle or the neck of the bottle. Um, but as I started doing this, I realized the pumpkin still wasn't as big as I wanted it or as shapely as I wanted it. So this is where another mistake comes in, and I end up just putting more tinfoil all over this thing to build it up. Um, I wish I would have just put a little more thought into it before I went ahead with the next steps because I wasted a lot of product in the process of doing tinfoil, tape, more tape. Um, so, yeah, you know, just take a step back from your projects and look at them and make your decisions before you waste a bunch of product like I do. Sometimes it happens. Now that the pumpkin is slightly more bulked up, I do have the spout started that I'm taping off, and here I go with the stem. Same concept, taking the tinfoil, rolling it up, and just wrapping around the neck of the bottle, kind of like a snake. And then I also want to make almost like a pulley cork looking top for the bottle. Again, I don't know how to explain it, but I'm sure you can see what I mean. Here we have a better look at what I have so far. You can see what I meant by the pulley top handle for the bottle. I went ahead and started cutting the tape and the tin foil at where the top of the pumpkin would be because I wanted it to have that look. There's going to be pumpkin guts pouring out of it as well once we get to the more fun stuff at the end of the video. I did just use scissors for this. It was not an awesome feeling because I don't know if you've ever cut chunks of tin foil with scissors, but it just, ugh, it's not right. But that's what I did. All right, now we go into basically the paper mache step of the project. In some of the videos I was watching for inspiration, they did use newspaper, but I was just not having a good time with that. It was too thick, it wasn't getting the texture I wanted it to have. So I went out and I got some really cheap paper towel that had as little of a design on it as possible. You don't want any swirlies or flower patterns or anything like that because that will show up on your project. Unless that is what you want on your project, then totally go for it. But here I am just using some watered down glue and little sheets of paper towel that I am again laying down vertical over the lumps of the pumpkin so the edges of the paper towel kind of land in the crevices between the pumpkin lumps. And for the top part of the pumpkin, including the spout, the stem, and the handle, I just ripped small, tiny pieces of paper towel and put them where they needed to be just to kind of cover up all the tape. Because the next step will be painting, and I am excited for that. And now we get to paint it orange! Yay! So this paint is called Pumpkin Orange. I'm going to paint the whole lower half of the pumpkin in this and stop right under the spout before I'm going to get to the stem and change colors. Before I continue on with the stem, I go in with a relatively dark brown color and I very lightly started adding some shadow into those creases. This is way too light for what I wanted it to be because I want that kind of almost rotten, not so sure I should drink that, spooky kind of pumpkin juice bottle look. That's what I'm going for, okay? Here I'll start dragging some of the brown paint downward into the orange too to make sure I don't have such a blunt line where the pumpkin color stops and the stem color begins. I want it to look natural and flowy a little bit. This is where I start to go in much heavier with that dark brown in those crevices. I used a way thicker brush. I think at first too I did go in with a little too much paint. I could have done more of a dry brushing technique here, but in the end I do like the way it looks. It's very dingy and creepy and dark and I dig it. Now I'm reaching the end of my project. This is where I start to get to add all of the fun details. I don't know why I decided to do the stem first. I think looking back I should have started with the cotton, but that's okay. I go in and just use some spare fake sticks and stems that I have. I did have this one that was already kind of curly, so it worked really well to wrap around the neck of the bottle. I'm just adhering that with some hot glue, and then I'm going to go in with a couple fake leaves as well that I pulled off of something and add those on there just wherever I feel like they look good, you know? Do what makes you happy. Do what you think looks good. Have fun. Be creative. I did create a label for my pumpkin juice bottle using my Cricut maker. And then after I cut that out, I just crumpled it up and did a little dry brushing on there with some of that dark brown paint again, just so it matches everything. And now we get to go in with the cotton and make the pumpkin guts. This was one of my favorite parts. Basically just ripping up little cotton balls and adhering those pieces to the part of the pumpkin that I cut open with a little bit of glue. And then I'll be adhering it to the top, the very top of the bottle as well, where the handle is, to make it look like the pumpkin guts is just trying to overflow out. And I think I add a little bit to the spout as well. I just don't know if I got that part on video. I am using the same pumpkin orange paint to cover up the cotton. It is going to show up a little differently and a little lighter because our paint layers underneath are dingied up with that brown. So I think the contrast is still great considering it is the same paint color. Now the painting is done, and for that final step, I'm just taking a piece of twine and attaching my cute little pumpkin juice label. Just tying it with a cute little bow in the back, that way if I ever do want to change it, I can. And here we are, one pumpkin juice bottle. I hope you enjoyed this project and that it inspires you to create something awesome that you love. Please go ahead, like the video, subscribe if you want to come back for more fun, spooky ideas, and don't forget, until next time, stay spooky.